March 1945. It was just before dawn. Cold air, mud thick underfoot. The kind of quiet that feels too heavy. Like the ground itself is holding its breath. Nazi scouts peer through binoculars across the river. Movement. A column of American armor, bigger than anything that should have been there. The scouts watched, counted, reported. The message was clear. They're preparing to cross. Germans dug in, reinforcements scrambled, orders were given. Every man at the front told, brace yourself. A volley of small arms fire, smoke screens and artillery littered the American position. But something was off. No heat signatures, no tracks in the mud, no signs of life, just shadows and silence. For months, they were everywhere and nowhere. 1,000 ghosts marching through Europe without ever firing a single shot. Good morning, good evening, and good night. Guys, welcome back to the channel. Welcome to F.O.G, and welcome back to another episode of History Breach, the series where we deep dive into real military historical events. And today we're going to be talking about the World War II 23rd Headquarters Special Troops, or otherwise known as the Ghost Army. But before we get into the full video, I want to go ahead and give you specifically a huge shout out because our channel has just recently hit 3,000 subscribers as of making this video. So thank you guys so much. Your guys' constant support, likes, comments, and everything on this channel has been spectacular. It's so cool to be a part of this community and bring forth cool and, fun, entertaining content for you guys to view. And I'm very happy that for 3,000 people, it's hitting that mark and hitting that sweet spot. So without further ado, what was the Ghost Army of World War II? The Ghost Army of World War II was America's secret unit of artists, sound engineers, and con men who used rubber tanks, fake radio signals, and theatrical deceptions to mislead the Nazis across Europe. And for 50 whole years, their story was buried and classified. Of course, this has been public information for a long time now. Not a lot of people know about them, and it's a very cool story of the military using art and, deceptive tactics to try to win a war and to use up resources against their enemy. It's really cool to see countries, especially America, just trying as much as they can and everything that they can to, try to win a war and get really innovative with stuff. So let's talk about the birth of the Ghost Army. As the Allies planned their push through Nazi-occupied Europe, they knew brute force wouldn't be enough. Deception was essential, and the inspiration actually came from the British. The British had already executed Operation Bertram in 1942, hopefully I'm saying that right, tricking Rommel in North Africa using fake vehicles and supply dumps. The US decided to develop its own tactical deception unit, the 23rd Headquarters Special Troops, or what we know them now is the Ghost Army, the cooler name. Okay, so a couple key details. They were formed on January 1944. Commanding officer was Colonel Harry L. Reeder. Their size was about 1,100 men. Training location Camp Forest, Tennessee, and Fort Meade, Maryland. The unit fell under the U.S. Army and answered directly to SHAEF, or the Supreme Headquarters Allied Expeditionary Force, led by General Eisenhower. Here's a little quote from a soldier in the unit who would eventually become a fashion designer, Bill Blass. "We were told we would do things to make the enemy think we were something we weren't." Okay, so now that we have an understanding of kind of who they are and how they came to be, let's talk a little bit about their unit structure and their methods. The 23rd was composed of 4 specialist units: the 603rd Camouflage Engineers, the Signal Company Special, the 3132 Sonic Company, and the 406 Combat Engineers. So what were those individual units doing? Let's talk a little bit about that. The 603rd Camouflage Engineers were a group of artists and designers, many from art school like Cooper Union and Pratt Institute. They used inflatable tanks, jeeps, artillery, and aircraft painted with shadows for realism. They created dummy encampments with fake tents, laundry lines, and even phony campfires made with lighting tricks. The Signal Company Special were radio operators who created spoof radio traffic. They could mimic the signal pattern of full armor division. They used directional antennas to project signals in a controlled way so the enemy interceptors got exactly what the Allies wanted them to hear. The 3132 Sonic Company worked with engineers from Bell Labs and Hollywood sound designers. They used recordings of tanks, trucks, even bridge building captured on wire recorders. Played on mobile, 500-pound speakers mounted onto half tracks. They could project convincing sounds and movement across 15 to 20 miles. And last but not least, the 406 Combat Engineers. They built fake infrastructures, dummy roads, tank tracks, fake bridges, and also provided physical security during deployments. Alright, so let's now talk a little bit about the operations that they conducted. The Ghost Army participated in 21 known deception operations between June 1944 and March 1945. First mission, Operation Brest, August 1944. The location was Brittany, France. The goal was to simulate the 6th Armored Division to keep German forces pinned in Brest. They used methods such as full package sonic broadcasts, inflatable tanks, and spoof radio signals. The outcome was the German forces were actually pinned in place for long enough for the real US forces to come in and tighten the noose. We also have Operation Bettenberg, September 1944. The location was Luxembourg, and they simulated the 90th Infantry Division. Used only a few hundred men to project the presence of 1,500. German scouts confirmed a massive presence that didn't exist. And lastly, we're going to talk about Operation Viersen, March 1945, their most ambitious operation yet. The goal was to deceive the Germans about the location of the 9th Army's crossing of the Rhine River. The Ghost Army simulated the 30th and the 79th Infantry Division near Krefeld. But while the real crossing actually happened 10 miles north, inflatable tanks were set up along visible roads, fake radio convoys sent out, and the 3132nd blasted bridge building noises overnight. And what do you know? The deception succeeded. A huge amount of German reinforcements were actually sent to the fake site. Alright, so let's get a little bit into the Ghost Army's key figures, personnel, and artists. Like I said before, we have Bill Blass, a future American fashion legend, and he designed fake division insignia and signs. We also have Ellsworth Kelly, later became a major figure in American modern art. We also have Arthur Singer, wildlife artist and illustrator, painted camouflage and fake vehicles. And last notable figure is Jack Macy, later worked on Cold War propaganda for the US Army. Although non-combat, their work was extremely dangerous. If captured beyond enemy lines in disguise, they could have been executed as spies under the Geneva Convention. They operated very close to the front lines, sometimes just miles or two away. In Operation Bausenville, German artillery began firing on their position before they could fully evacuate. And several men were actually wounded, thankfully not fatally, but some, did actually get hit. And lastly, I want to talk a little bit on their classified legacy. The unit's work was classified until 1996. Many of the members never talked about their role until decades later. In 2022, the US Congress finally awarded the Ghost Army the Congressional Gold Medal. Quote from Ghost Army veteran Bernie Bluestein, "We were just doing our job, but we knew if we did it right, people lived." The Ghost Army reminds us that war isn't just about firepower. It's about brains, it's about wit, and it's especially about creativity. It's crazy to think in a war such as World War II with so many big things happening in history, not only technological advancements, but also just how much time is spent on planning, on the Germans' end to try to fulfill their goal at the time, that the little bit of artistry, creativity, and illusion can play such a big role in saving so many lives. Because who's to say if the Ghost Army didn't exist, what would happen to those German fortified positions that the Americans were trying to get to? Nobody knows if the Americans could have just pulled off a straight firepower assault, The Ghost Army used paint, sounds, and storytelling to bend the battlefield where they didn't even have to fire a single shot. They saved hundreds and even maybe thousands of lives, and they bested some of Hitler's top commanding officers. And yet for half a century, nobody even knew that they existed. And that is why they earned the title, the Ghost Army. Alright, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys really enjoyed this video. My goal is really just to bring forth and shed light on cool historical events that people may not know about, and even some that are controversial that people should know about. I really like to encourage people, if you're interested in history, learn about it yourself, dive into it deeper. If you hear a little topic that piques your interest, really get into the weeds and form your own opinion. So once again, thank you guys so much for 3,000 subscribers. Let's try to get to 4. I'm so happy you guys are enjoying this content. Leave a comment down below if you like these true history videos, and let me know if there's any topics, units, or wars, or anything you guys want me to talk about. I actually have a pretty big list already of comments that people have left on some things I should talk about, and I'm going to be getting to those videos. Don't you guys fret. I'm just kind of getting through the ones that I already have right now. Make sure you leave a like and subscribe. Hit that bell down below so you can get notified when our weekly content drops, and I will catch you guys on the next one. Thank you.